So, hello, guys. Welcome to today's session. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're watching us. Listening to us from. It's currently afternoon here, and it's seriously raining. So please let me know if you can hear me first of all. So if you can hear me, please go ahead to drop a message in the comment section so that I know that you can hear me. So guys, if you can hear me, please go ahead to drop a mess. Oh, okay, all right. Yes, you can hear me. All right, thank you, Kaite and Chinemirim. So today's class is basically a general overview of what we have learned so far from day one till now, and also we're just going to do more of questions and answers. If you have any from week one to today, this happens to be our last teaching class. And from next week, we're moving solely into the project phase. And most of those activities will be done more on Discord than YouTube. We might have some sessions that will be on YouTube, but the Discord server is about to become really active. So if you're not so active on the Discord server, please do well to become active, because the project phase is where you're going to have a lot, where you're going to have to put in everything you have learned so far into work, and you're going to see how it all plays out at the end of the day. So moving forward, I'll give more like a recap. If you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat sessions. I'll pick it up from there. I think somewhere Miss and Mav will be joining me also. So it's going to be more of a, let's say it's not your regular session, but we're going to make it as interactive as possible for you guys. So basically, I'll start off with week one, where we talked about learning design principles and design thinking. So more of a way of refreshing your memories and going back. I would say basically, when we talk about design principles, we're made to understand that we have different principles that guide designs, and we have the major ones that guide our designs. What they do for us most times is to make sure that our designs are not just visually appealing, but they're also functional and effective. Because when you have to deal with users, when we have to deal with users, we have user experience and user interface. But either ways, they both come together to work to achieve a common goal. So now for experience, for the design principles majorly, I think recapping, I'll go back talking about balance. When we talk about balance, it's a way that we are able to achieve balance, the way we place our elements and how we go about it. Then we also have contracts, the way we make contracts between certain elements, either using colors or typography, so that one tends to stand out from the other. And also we talk about proportion. When we're talking about proportion, you're talking of the appropriate size and scale of design elements we use to create a pleasing visual hierarchy. Unity is more of when every element that we have used to design that website or mobile app comes together to play a major role in what we are doing. And then we move on to say color. Now, in colors, we have been told that it's best that we use just one color, sorry, just two colors or max of three colors. The reasons why we're advised when we use dealing with colors is because for colors, you don't want a situation where we have the colors flying everywhere, and then we understand that accessibility is key, and we have people who react to color. So it's best placed that they understand what is going on, and they know that okay, this is going to work for us. Then okay, from the chat I can see rain thundering, though I pray network isn't affected. I really hope so. And that's what we have to say about design principles. Now we have I think that answers that for design principles. And moving on, we are going to say that The next topic we had was design thinking. So doing design thinking, we're made to understand that it's one thing to go think about what you want to design. Then it's another thing to practice design thinking. And then we came to the fact where we had to talk about the 5 steps of design, where we have empathize, define, test, users. I think okay. Oh, all right. Mav just joined me. Welcome, Mav.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me, Amaka?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. I think today is the final today is the last day, the last class we're having for the UIUX track, right?
Yes.
Awesome. I hope you guys are having fun. So please, sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're basically doing a rundown of what has been taught so far. So I was just going on talking about the design thinking process, where we talked about that for designers, you have to empathize with the users, define the problem, ideate, prototype, and test our solutions basically. And I think that was the second topic we dealt with, and I think that was simple enough because we know that if we're going to understand our users, or rather empathize with the users, we have to understand where they are coming from, their observations, to be able to go their route, as well as now be able to narrow down the problems when we come down to the define stage, because a problem might just feel like it's peculiar to a lot of people, but meanwhile it's particular to a particular group of people. So whatever you're doing, you have to like tailor it to that aspect. Then ideating is where we have these sessions where everyone comes together to think about it, or majorly designers come together to think about what is going on, how best to get to narrow the solution, how best to achieve what they want to achieve. Then we talk about prototyping. In this case, we have successfully gone through the wireframing, developing a low fidelity design that seems to be our solution at the moment. But when we test it, we're able to identify whether it solves the problem and makes room for improvements. And I think moving on, we talked about user interface, using Figma plugins.
Even looking at I'm even looking at the cohort webpage. I'm sure most of you have the cohort webpage where you can see the list of things that was taught. Amaka, can you please share that on the chat? I'm trying to, yeah,
Okay, I'll do that. Let me just get that up right now.
yeah, okay. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm trying to open it on my end as well. I think it's a cohort.topuniverse.org. Yes.
Um,
Okay, then when you open up the web page, you can simply click on UIUX to sort through, yeah, just to give you a filter of, the UIUX classes. So design principles, design thinking in UX, interface design with Figma. I remember that class. I think Samuel,
yes.
yeah, Samuel
How
spent,
some
yeah, I think it was more than 2 hours, right? If I'm not mistaken.
almost 3 hours on the call.
Yeah, I
on the
mean, it was a wonderful session. I remember. So, guys, let me see if I can assist Amaka with some of the questions here. So, Oye is asking, Amaka, can you please put that question on the screen so that everybody can see it?
Okay, all right. I'm bringing it on the screen.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, Oye is asking, when using an image in a design, how is the best way to match the color? So, I mean, if I look at your question, there are so many things I'm thinking of right now. So, are you trying to ask, the best way to match the color of the image, to your design? Because ideally, your design should not the color you use on your design should not be based on the image you have. Instead, the image you bring in should actually work with your brand color, right? So just to give you a more realistic scenario, Onyinye, if you're working on a product, maybe like a mobile app or a web app, the company you're building that for, or the platform you're building that for, already have an existing, brand color. Or let's assume they don't have one, and you want to create one. Make sure you select a color that works best with the product. That is the advice I give a lot of people. So let's assume we're building an agricultural, app, a particular app that will be used, of course, in the agricultural industry. I believe you would go with probably something around green, and if not green, then maybe we're looking at orange, right? Or then you can now probably think of some other colors. And we have maybe you might have heard about the color theory, right? So you need to understand which color works best for my industry. In most of the tech industry, you probably see blue everywhere, right? In health industries, I'm sure it's also blue, but a different
It's
variant of
also
blue.
blue, but a different variant.
Yeah, so in agriculture, in the food sector, you see orange. Orange is very popular. Red is also popular, but not really the pure red color, right? So red, orange, sometimes green. I think this there's a brand that uses green. They supply food. Amaka, if you remember this brand, we were talking about it the other day.
Uh,
Um, yeah, they actually supply food, and most of their customers are actually the tech related
yeah,
guys.
yeah, yeah. I
You know,
remember them.
remember their name. But yeah, so you need to what Eden Life, right?
Yeah, Eden Live.
So you need to make sure that the color is the decision for your color is actually based on the brand or the design you're working on. Then the image, you need to bring in images that would work. So let's assume I'm going to go from a different scenario now. Onyeye. The company is a startup, probably a startup, and they want to do something. So they give you a picture, and then you decide to generate, or get the colors out of the picture, the main colors out of the picture. There are tools you can use for that, right? You can actually use coolors, and I think we might have mentioned that during the previous sessions. If you check out coolors, it gives you a way to upload the image, and then it extracts the color out of it. You can check it out. C double O, is it double O or triple O? I think it's double O,
Yeah,
right?
double O.
Yeah, COOLORS .co.co. Okay, so I'll drop it in the chat for you. There are so many things. There are so many tools in that platform. So check it out, and I believe you would definitely love it. So yeah, and you said a question in regards design principle. I don't think that the question is probably regarding design principle. Instead, I think it's around the color theory, and yeah, basically color theory. So I
Yes,
hope that
major.
answers the question. Yeah. Amaka, you can add to that, please. Thank you.
I think that majorly answers it. You have said a lot about that because majorly for colors, you are going to be sure that this is the color that works in your industry. At least it's something that has been used. You don't want to go and use let's say for tech for example, you don't want to say you see a tech firm and then you're seeing red. The first thing that comes to your mind is, are we sure this is the right place? So you are
Yeah,
going to be.
a lot of people make that mistake even. I'm sure you know that.
You
A
said?
lot of a lot of people make the mistake of picking colors randomly. I'm sure you know that.
Yes, they do that a lot.
It's a big mistake, and I think you should learn to avoid it, right? Don't pick colors randomly because it's your favorite color. Make sure the color you're picking is comfortable. When other people try to use your service or your solution, they should be comfortable, using it. Um,
I
yeah,
think the next question here is design business. Are you saying the business of design itself? I need more insight. So
yeah. Let us know. Do you mean business of design?
yeah, so while you're getting that answer up, we have here. I just really want to understand how component works and how component and variants work.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I think instead of talking about this in Figma components I will just give you like a very brief, you know, um, I'll try to make you understand it from a theory angle, but I will recommend you go back to the video because I'm very sure Samuel will never teach Figma without talking about components and component variants.
Yeah.
Um, so just to give you a fundamental explanation to that, when you're working on a product or a design, you are going to be you're probably going to reuse, or you're probably going to find yourself using a similar probably a similar element or a similar item. I'm describing it as an item now, not a component, right? So imagine if you are building an e-commerce platform, then you definitely should have like a product card. The product card will carry the product image, the title, which is the name of the product, the description of the product, probably the rating, the price, maybe yeah, I think that is pretty much some of the things you would have there. Maybe there's a discount or something. You basically have those stuff. Okay, when you have that item put together, right? So you basically group you basically group different elements together, including the text, the image, right? The shapes that you brought in for the rating and all those stuff. You put everything together. You then have a grouped component or a grouped item. Let's use item for now. A grouped item. Now, when you decide to make that a component, the reason for making something a component is that you plan on reusing it, right? You don't want to go down and start doing copy and paste, or because you want to make sure that when you create a new version of that same item, it is exactly the same with the previous one in terms of the spacing, in terms of the font size, in terms of the color. You want to make sure it's exactly the same thing. So you create a copy that can be reused, and then you set some parameters to say, okay, I should be able to change the text, I should be able to change the description, an image as well, of course, the rating as well. So you can set some of these properties. And the moment you start, creating new versions from the one you have set as a component, you can then go in there and make those changes to the specific parameters or the fields that you need to change. Now, when it comes to variants, I would also give an example with the same card. Remember, I said product card. So let's assume on the product card you actually decide to specify a way to show available items and the items that are out of stock, right? So available and out of stock. Now, for the items that are available, you mark it with a specific color, and yeah, maybe the button for purchase is visible, and probably carrying the primary color. It's clear, very clear that that item is available. And then for the ones that are out of stock, you want to change the text on the button, to out of stock, and you want to make it disabled. So you can basically create, when you create a component, you can then use the plus sign. Of course, you know what the shape looks like. The diamond shape, um, just right at the top. I don't want to go the route of sharing my screen because it will take our time. But if you have any other question, I'm sure outside the call, we should be able to show you. I think you are not even active on Discord. You would not be asking this question. So yeah, we have actually talked about this on Discord several times. So basically, when you create a new version, or a new variant as it is called, you can then edit the property of the next variant, and it's a very good idea. Probably a standard way to do things. Try as much as possible to always remember to name your components, and the variants, right? Give it a name. For the main component, I can call it product card. For the second component, which is the variant now, I can call it, products card, then hyphen out of stock, right? I think
Yeah.
that's what. So by the time you bring out the general component, and you want to probably switch it up to like the one that is out of stock, you just have to select the drop down on the properties, on the properties pane. It's called the pane, PANE, which is the section where probably where you select the several properties on the right. So when you select the drop down in the component section, you can easily switch things up to a different variant. Okay, if you're on Discord, probably drop a message and I would just take a screenshot and share with you on Discord. So that is basically the idea, right? The component is something you can reuse in different pages. You can even choose to reuse it in different projects if you publish that component into what we call a Figma library, all right? But when you're using it in different page in the same project, you can use it across pages and even on the same page, of course. So when you create multiple variants, the idea is you have a particular component that has a different states, right? So you just want to showcase that it's a different state, probably having some minor differences to showcase that it's in a different state. I hope that answers your question, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Amaka,
I think
let's,
that should answer his question. I didn't get that.
yeah.
What were you saying?
So I said let's move to the next. Yeah, that answers the
Okay,
question.
so Harrison has answered the question. He said he's speaking about business of design. So I think business for of design was the class we had last week. Was it last week or the week before? So I think to just shed more light on this, let me just say something. Then Mav can also contribute to it.
Okay.
Okay, so for business of design, more or less, we're talking about understanding the value you give as a designer, and then you communicating your business value to your clients or the team or whoever you work with, whether as a freelancer or you tend to work for a company. Now, the major thing here is you're supposed to understand that design on its own is not just about you creating things that are aesthetics or pleasing. Design also provide value for businesses in the sense that it helps businesses with their conversions as well and getting sales. So you're going to understand that whatever thing you bring to the table as a designer, it has to be beneficial both to the business and to the users who want to use it, because as designers, you know that you're not just creating solutions, you're as well creating a means of revenue for the business you're working with, because in the process of creating solutions to a particular problem, there are two things involved. The solution you're creating either has to pay the business, or you're creating a solution to provide help to people who need it, but then on a free scale. So it's dependent on what you want to do. Then you also have to understand. Mav, did you say something?
Yeah, yeah. I said you're correct. You're correct. That's correct. I do have something to add to that. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, okay. So, I like the part where you mentioned that it's either you're creating, a solution, of course, for the users, but, it has to benefit the business as well because you are in business, right? Or you decide to implement, a solution that will benefit the users, and then you come up with some other plans on how to make money, right? If you don't make money, then, I mean, I don't know how you want to keep up with the maintenance and development of this app. So, from the previous session you had about the business of design, I think it was split into two sections. The first one was talking about, focusing on the business value, right, of your design or, your UX, research and all that. And the second part was then focused on presentation. So just to give you a quick rundown, I think the first thing is it's a good idea for designers or, so long you are a stakeholder on a project, right, as a designer, whether you are into interface design or the user research angle of things, you should understand the business value. When you are conducting your research or you are trying to, brainstorm with your team to talk about a feature, it's not about, focusing only on saying, okay, this will provide the best experience to our users. You always have to fall back and look at the business and say, okay, if we're implementing this, what is the impact on the business? There are some implementations that would cost the business, right? Even though the users benefit from that, it might actually cost the business. Most of you would definitely love to, to perform transactions with WhatsApp. You want to, probably pay somebody with WhatsApp. I mean, if you even think about the future, you will love it, right? There's so many things you would love to have. Okay, and we have designers and developers that can implement these things. But the question now is, those designers or the UX specialists have asked themselves, is this thing beneficial to the company, right? What would be the cost? If WhatsApp implements payment, which I think they already did in Brazil, but let's assume they decide to roll out in Nigeria, what will be the cost of maintaining, and doing things like reconciliation if there are errors or if there are potential mistakes on the app, during the process of making transactions, what will be the potential impact, right? So they must have also conducted some research and say, okay, this would work well in Nigeria. They will love it because it's easy. But then, what is the security implementation? What is the what is the nature of banking and transactions or fintech solutions in Africa or in Nigeria, right? And they might not consider to say, okay, if we really want to make this work, means that the business has to go down to this, we have to do this, we have to do that. It's not really good for us at the moment. If you just focus on the users, you would say, wow, this is amazing. This would work. Users will love it, right? Users will pay for it. But sometimes it actually goes, in fact, most times it goes beyond that, and you always have to make sure you're considering, even as a designer, the impact, which is basically where I think Amaka is actually just focused for now, based on our discussion so far. I believe Amaka is solely focused on
Yeah.
UX, right? And when you're doing UX, this is one of the major things that you must always consider because designers would love to design. Yes, they will always design. They will give you the best design out there, no doubt. But what is the influence of what is the effect of whatever we have gotten from the designers what's the effect on the business, right? From the team to the business financials. I mean, there's so many things to consider. And yeah, then I think you were also taught communicating the business value of your design, which is exactly properly aligned with what I've said so far. And then presentation. Now, presentation is very important. Amaka, we also discussed this during the masterclass at Technics Garage. Um, Presentation is very important, and a lot of people don't seem to realize how important it is. You might
Yeah.
have, I think I saw something on Behance. Somebody asked me to review his work. And after going through the entire, review, I checked the comments. Of course, your fellow designers were saying, this is amazing, this is wonderful. You focus on showing us user interface, which is beautiful, right? But then you say you are giving us a case study. And when it comes to the user flow and the user journey map, you did not do anything, right? It was just a single line. Probably you don't even know how to do a journey map. Now, the most important thing for me, if I'm reviewing your case study and you call it a UX case study, is the empathy map, the journey map. It is very important. I need to first, using the empathy map, I should understand, right? What is the problem? You might have written things down, probably written a bunch of essays. The major thing is I want you to indicate properly in a very clear and concise way. This is the problem. This is the potential users, and these are what they are, facing on a daily basis, right? This is
Yeah.
the design solution, and this is what the benefit that this solution would give to them. Now, when they decide to use this solution, based on individual actions they want to perform, this is the flow. This is how they will move through the app. Just like you have WhatsApp, if you want to send a message, there's a flow. You want to post status, there's a flow. You want to make a call or video call, audio call, there's a flow, right? You want to add a contact or delete a contact, of course, change your profile picture, there's a flow. If you're not able to show me the flow, which I think, based on what
Is
you have heard right now, is very important. So if I can't see the flow, then what exactly is the case study? What am I saying? So,
well,
Amaka, I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
yeah, you understand what you're saying because more or less you're just showing us that okay, I just came up with something for my head, and all I care about is the fact that it's aesthetically pleasing, and that's that. Like I
Yeah, yeah,
can't do more than that. And somehow you just have termed it a normal design, just a design of a food app or whatever. No need
yeah,
of
yeah.
going out of
If that's what you
complex.
call it, I think I will understand. Yeah, yeah. So Amaka, you're right. If that's what you refer to it, if you say, this is the design of a simple, a sample food app application, and then you're posting it on, Dribble, or Behance, and yeah, I would understand because it's you're just telling us this is something that you played around with. You just wanted to, design something. It is not a case study, right? And it's potentially not going to solve any problem, right? I understand you're trying to show off your design skills, which is amazing. Okay, but I hope you guys understood some of the explanations I gave, and I think Amaka, we are already yeah. Do you want to add anything to that, or we can just move on to the next question?
I think that answers that. We can move on. So Harrison, I hope that answers your question. If not, you can go ahead to talk about the particular part of the business of design you want us to speak on. So moving on here, we have Adekumbi. Are there ideal measurements for buttons for websites and for mobile apps?
You want me to take that?
Yeah, you can take that because I know. Okay, let me just say this. Based on my own experience, I don't think there's any ideal measurement. You're just going to make sure that whatever you are doing, it's going to fit in, or it's going to follow the thumb rule, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I wanted to also say that. So basically, there's no one size fits all pattern. I mean, you would definitely see a lot of books telling you that you should have like 16 px. They will tell you to always use like the I think it's called what are the measurements in fours, right? So when you have like if you're using if you're trying to add a padding to maybe the left and the right, you can always go with 16, or 24 when you add, like eight, right? And even if you're doing some kind of, I would basically show you something regarding fonts, right? But when it comes to like, the size of the measurement of those buttons in terms of the padding, um, come to think about it, some platforms tell you, okay, you should probably add like 24 px, on the padding, left and right. But then, if you want to put a button on a mobile app and you want it to stretch through, like, to basically stretch and the text would sit in the center, I mean, that's also very much, valid. So I think what you should instead, try to understand is you should learn how to be consistent when you have a specific pattern, right? Using 16px or 8px or 24px is a great idea. It gives you that level of consistency. Then when you see the one that works for you, try to stick to that one. Now, this would sound like I'm going against what I just said, but no. Most people like to work with design systems. Now, when you're working with a design system, you might be saying, "Oh, this design system already has this thing like this." I mean, it means that what Marv and Amaka said are probably wrong. Try to understand what they are doing there. They are giving you a design system. Ideally, they did not create a design system for you. They created this for their products. These are companies. Figma has a design system. Microsoft has their own design system called Fluent Design System. Google has Material Design System. Apple has their own design system. If you're using the Google Design System, for example, then you have to follow the principles and the guidelines, the styles and the button size, the padding, the spaces across among different elements. You have to follow these things so that you can you'll be rest assured that what you have designed using the uh, Google design system, which is a material design system, is nice, right? It's consistent. So if you're using a design system, then yes, follow the standard created or placed on that design system. But if you decide to go through all the design systems, you will discover that there are different, different ways or different styles with different spacing. Yeah, so there is no one size, fits all strategy. But what I think you should try to understand is consistency, which is very important. Then, for a start, take a look at tons of design systems and try to see how they do things, because it will then influence how you would, create your own, styles and your own design system if you eventually create one. So I think there's a website called I can remember Design System for Figma, Design
Yeah,
System for
design system for
yeah.
Figma.
So you can check it out. I can't remember if I can't. I don't know. I don't know the exact. Just Google that design system for Figma. You will find the website. It has a ton of design systems for Atlassian, Slack, Figma, Microsoft, Google. A lot of companies, and design system is also there. A lot of companies actually. You will love it, and they give you like a free version. You can play around with. Okay. I mean, even the free version is quite robust. So yeah, and of course they would also show you the styles and the way you do things for mobile and web on the design system, for their specific design system. So try to check it out. Okay. All right. So I think the next question here would be let's see. Is there an ideal spacing for apps and web? I think this is also similar to what I just explained. So please check out the design systems. Try to make sure that you focus on consistency more, and try to also make sure that you learn how to, space things properly. So one rule I usually give people is things that are meant to be together should stay together, and things that are meant to be apart should stay apart. Okay. If you follow through on, UX rules or UX principles, and you also take a look at design systems out there to see how it is done in the industry, I think it will work massively well for you. Don't try to create your own style without having references, right? I know you can be creative. We can be creative as um,
Individuals.
as designers. But I wanted to say as designers, which of course I am a designer. I do designs a lot, but I do not identify as a designer. So Amaka, I'm sure you understand what I mean. So
Yeah, that's not what you mean.
basically a solutions architect, and I don't want anybody to play this video and say, Mark, you called yourself a designer and you're working with us as a solutions architect. Are we making some mistakes here? So guys, I've done a lot of designs in the past, worked as a UI UX designer, did a lot of UX research, worked with Amaka as well, on different UX research projects. And but I am not, a full-time designer, even though I do a lot of designs till this day using Figma and
Ah,
Sketch. All right.
okay.
So
And okay.
Go
So
ahead. Go ahead.
I think to add to that now, there's something you must note. And when you have to keep up with consistencies, consistency, that's why we majorly have the layout grid. You have grids and columns. You have rulers in Figma. So what you can do is, since you're still trying to understand how to work consistently, the best thing you can do for yourself is turn on the grids, turn on the layouts. That way, it's once you set your layout, you're able to identify that okay, everything I'm designing should be where we have this color showing from your layouts, and it helps you. And then you can also use your rulers to like mark the amount of space you want so that you can just flow and not have you don't have some things aligned to the left, some things aligned to the right. For beginners, just majorly if you're starting off, stick with your layouts. Like over time you get better and you can start designing without using your layout grid or column.
Yeah.
Just that would help you a lot.
I think Figma also has this feature where you can snap things. When you try to position some items, it can snap to the previous set of items that are aligned. So always try to leverage that as well. If you have like some grid items or maybe some boxes, you want to position something and you want to make sure it is aligned. Always watch out for the red snap line that would, indicate that is currently
So
snapped to that line. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and I think if you're really been on Discord, very active on Discord, you should have but you should have seen that video, the class where I held that class. Even Samuel, we talked about it, how to align, how to use your layout grid so that you have everything properly aligned and well
yeah.
spaced, give you that consistency you need.
Most of them are not on Discord, which is why I'm not going to be sharing my screen to show you anything. I think Harrison is asking for the user journey map. Can you show an example? I mean, you have to come to Discord, and I can also share links with you, but I won't be sharing my screen here because if you're on Discord, then we won't be talking about this, right now. So Harrison, if you're on Discord, drop a message on the general channel or in my DM. But I'll prefer you drop a message in your, UIUX channel or the general channel. It's way
Yes.
better. Yeah.
And then speaking about Discord, this is the only class we're having this morning. The class for 8 p.m. will be done on Discord. I would like to repeat that again. The class will have this for tonight will be done 8 p.m. on Discord. So if you have not been active on Discord, I would ask you to be active there on Discord because only there will be can we do more about what we are doing, because now this current class is more of a wrap up of everything we have been taught so far. So the evening class might be a more practical sessions to your questions. But
Yeah.
for now, this is what we're doing. So join us by 8 p.m. on Discord.
All right. So what else do we have here? So yeah. So Harrison, if you reach out on Discord, you would definitely get the answer to some of your questions.
Okay. So Gochukwu Lewis is asking, please, my question is, can one combine two design systems? My question to you will be, why are you combining two design systems?
Yeah, I mean, a design system is actually robust enough to give you most of the components you need. And if you find a component that is not on that design system, you can basically use the elements you have there, compose them to give you something that works for you, or make sure you create something new that then looks like the previous one. Combining design systems, that's a bad idea. It's a bad idea because one design system can probably use border radiuses of 4px or 8px, and the other one can be using probably 6px or 5px. That inconsistency would actually creep in, right? So you don't want to have inconsistent design, right, or inconsistent layouts. You need to maintain that level of consistency. So it's a bad idea. Even though I will not generally say no, because I believe you can do it and you can basically edit the elements. I think it's a bad idea, right? Sometimes creating a component of your own might even be faster than trying to edit and understand what some other person have worked on. Now, I'm not saying you should not reuse. What I'm saying is, if there's a specific thing you need that is not on a design system that you are using, and there's nothing wrong with design system. I've seen some people say, "No, I want to design my own." Please, please. We have
You
done
like
some of
stress?
we have done some of those things in the past. It will not pay you, right? Except a company is paying you to give them a design system, for their brand. If it's a startup, don't start with a design system. Start with a style guide. That is what you need. Okay. Then as you grow, As you get more people on the team, then you can jump into working on a design system. Else, it is just you trying to give yourself the mindset that you are busy, right? And you are busy doing what? Nothing.
Nothing.
So, yeah, just you don't need to combine two design systems. Please use one, and probably design the rest of the components that you need. Okay.
If, I think if you don't, yeah. So that would answer that. So wow. Okay, for the next question, it's saying user flow and user journey map. What is the difference? Are both a must have in a case study or okay in one?
Yeah, I think Adekunbi is popular on Discord, right? I believe this is the
Yeah.
Adekunbi that I see.
Yes.
All
I
right,
think
so yeah. So the user flow and the user journey map, people actually use these terms,
interchangeably.
interchangeably. But if you come to think about it, the user flow sometimes can also be used to describe the information architecture in terms of how users would, flow through clicking on different pages. So I think you need to really understand the context of what the person is talking about. If they're talking about the user flow in the app based on the actions, remember, I usually use this term actions. If you have heard me talk about UX, because I believe most of the things we do as users are based on actions. So come to think about it, you want to make a transfer using CUDA or using PalmPay or OPay or probably your bank application like GTB. You have a mission, right? When you open that app, and that is the action we're talking about. What do you want to do? I want to transfer to my sister. The action there is the transfer. So what is the flow, right? What is the flow during that transfer process? You open the app, you log in, probably put your PIN or your password, you click on the transfer button, you do A, B, C, D, and then you're done. That is called the user journey map. Okay. Now that can also be described as a user flow. As I said earlier, the words are actually used interchangeably. So that can be somebody can actually call that a user flow, but try to clarify. If we're talking about the action here, it means when they say user flow, they are also referring to the user journey map. Okay. But people can also use the user flow to describe how the user would flow on the website, right? In terms of we call this, I don't know, maybe you've heard of what we call a site map, right? So a site map is showing, when you get to the website, you get to the landing page. On the landing page, we have a navigation system. We have the home, we have about, we have, login and a bunch of other stuff. So when you're moving through one page to the other, via the navigation, you can basically describe your site map, right? Just to show how you get from one page to the other via a menu or a sub menu and all those stuff. That can also be described as a user flow, but it will probably be called a website user flow. Okay, so just try to understand the concept, the context. Sorry. So the user flow here and the user journey map are actually used interchangeably, and the user journey map is describing those actions that I mentioned, and of course the user flow itself, in most cases would also describe the same thing. And I hope that answers the question. Amaka, you can also add to that if you want to, or we can move on to the next question.
I think we can move on to the next question because of time. I think that answers it. So for the next question, it says, what are those things to do in order to make a website responsive? Basically, here you're saying that if you in creating responsive designs, first of all, let's say you're creating a website, but then you want it to be responsive for mobile. It means that you are going to also have to create your mobile design. But what you're doing here is not every item you find on the website can be moved to the mobile. So you're going to move it, design your mobile in such a way that it fits what you have on the website, but then you're going to have let me use the word reduce details, because you cannot design everything like the way it shows on the website is definitely the same. It's definitely different from what it will show on, or from how it will show on a mobile phone.
Yeah.
So it's more or less reducing element. I think Mav, you can speak more on that. Let's take it from the engineering aspect a bit.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I really want to touch on the term responsiveness. Okay. So when you say something is responsive, that is basically a term that was popularized by folks coming from the web development industry, which are the front end developers. In this context. Okay. So as a designer, what I should be hearing from you is okay. I want to create you know um, a mobile view, right, or a mobile design. or a tablet, when you have these 10 inches, devices or 7-inch devices, you want to create something that would work for that particular device. What the developers would do is they look at your design and they try to, scale and change the layout, right? They focus more on, layout management. So which means if some items are showing on the web and they can't figure out in the best place to put that item, they can probably hide it in the menu, right? When you swipe out, you're using the hamburger menu or something, or they can probably reduce the size. So maybe on the web we can actually have font size of 16, and on mobile we can have font size of 14 or 12, depending on what they're trying to show. The point here is, responsive design is just an optimized version of the design you have on the web, to make it fit in properly or scale properly on mobile, right? Or if you're going the mobile first route, it means you are trying to make the design you have on the mobile, fit in properly on the web. So it's basically, it goes both ways. It depends on how you want to go about the implementation. All right. As a designer, um, I personally don't think, there is a specific thing that you must do, right? Before moving your website to a mobile view, you just need to understand that the idea is to make things fit, right? And while it fits, everything should also be consistent in terms of the font size. So if your font size for web is 16, the font size for a mobile, you make it 14, for example, or 12. And after setting the font size for your mobile, you have to make sure that you will not get to another place and be using 16 again, right? So your style would actually have like a version for the mobile items, right, or the version for the web items, or even the tablet, screen, or even these days we even design for larger screens, like your yeah, I don't want to call that the TV size, but I would basically say, screens that are larger than your regular, laptop screens, okay? And it depends on your customer. It depends on where that application will be used. Imagine trying to, you built an app for a mobile device, and your client says, I also want this to run on my iOS, watch, right? My iOS smartwatch. So you have to also come up with something for that, okay? Which means you have to even optimize more and, keep the most important things on the screen, right? So the most important things in most of the cases, you tend to showcase the most important ones, and have the others, probably hidden in the toggle or in the menu. Yeah, so I think that is the thing here, right? Focus on the most important things. Make sure they are visible and obvious enough to the users, and the others can, you can look for ways to bring in the others to your to the screen. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's move on to the next one, please.
I think okay, the next person is talking about consistency. Hassan, how do we work with the consistency? I think I already touched that when we spoke about oh, that combined. I think that's when we spoke about ideal spacing. That's when we also touched on consistency. So Hassan, if you need more light, you more explanations, you can do well to drop a message. So I think the next one now you're asking
Ju- Just
how.
to just to say something about that, Amanda. Sorry for this. Consistency. When you say work with the consistency, it's not like it's a thing in Figma. Okay, consistency is just I would say kind of like a principle that you have to have at the back of your mind, right? So, for example, I create a button with a height of 40 pixels and a width of maybe 250 pixels, and then I want to create another button that should look like the previous one. But instead of making it a component, I just want to create a new one because I believe I can use what designers tend to call eye gauge. You are gauging things with your eye. Sometimes, I mean, most times, you will be wrong, right? Because sometimes you might actually see things and say, okay, these things are looking equal, even though they are not. So if you are working with the components and you have used the component to create that button, there is more tendency to be consistent across the width and the height and even the colors and all those stuff. Okay. So just try to make sure you work with things like components, or just make sure you are not measuring things without using the ruler or using some specific things to just make sure that things are accurate. Okay, right? So that's how you go about consistency. There's no specific button that will make things consistent for you in Figma, right? So sorry about that, Amaka. We can proceed.
I think okay, yeah, that's fine. We have next question here, and probably our last question is saying, how do we create our portfolios?
Okay.
Okay, so I would say there are lots of ways to go about creating your portfolio. But then you have to start from a particular place and you have to decide what industry you'll be designing or to help create your portfolios. You can as well start by redesigning websites or that's redesigning already existing websites or cloning already existing websites. So you just make it sure to note that this is a clone or this is a redesign of what you did for a particular website based on a problem you notice. So it's I think that's those are the major ways I can tell you for now. And I would
Yeah,
say if you want more on this, join the class in the evening. It's going to be on Discord. So
yeah. So
remember to join
join
our Discord
join
session
class
by
in the
8
evening.
p.m. Okay, go on, Mav.
Yeah, I said, yeah, I was actually just reiterating on that. I said, yes, join the class in the evening and you'll be able to get more response. So Amaka is actually correct. Uh, you can actually redesign some existing solutions, come up with things that you feel, makes it better, right? Or if you just want to do like a complete clone, that's also fine if you are learning how to design and you're trying to work more on your design skills. Um, if you are, I think Samuel said it's a great idea to at least have one um, case study, right? Yeah, one case study. So if you are basically good in UX, right, I believe you would actually love creating case studies and solving some of those problems, conducting user research via questionnaires and stuff like that, outlining the process, putting it in your case study, and then the hiring managers, when they see your portfolio, they will be able to at least, understand what you've done. Now, if you're asking of the tools you can use to create your portfolio, I think you can check out Behance, right? Or I think Adobe has a tool they call probably a website generator or something. They have a tool for building a simple portfolio website. You can check it out as well. Then put in what you have designed or the UX research you've carried out. Put them together. Describe what you did, and put it up on Behance or any other tool you can find out there. So I think that will be all, Amaka. Thank you.
Yeah, so that would be all. So thank you guys for today's session. Thank you for turning up. I hope your 8 weeks of learning has been fun. Now we are moving into a more serious part where we have the project phase. And I believe if you want a portfolio, this can as well stand to act as your portfolio. That if you come into the project phase and work with what we have in the project phase, I think before now we already have an underlying guidelines that will determine if you get to project phase. So I will just ask you to keep your eyes open and be active on Discord. And again, I would like to reiterate this by saying our 8 p.m. session is going to be on Discord. It's not going to be on YouTube or Twitch. So do well to join us 8 p.m. on Discord, and it might be a more practical session to answer most of your questions. So I believe you have enough time to go through everything you have been taught from week 1 to week 8 and come prepared with your questions as we'll take everything during our 8 p.m. class. So thank you guys. And also, if you're yet to follow us on Twitch, kindly follow us on Twitch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So that will be all for now. Thank you, Mav, for coming to this
Yeah.
session.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful day, and for the rest of us, have fun.
Yes, so have a lovely day, everyone. And if it's raining in your area, enjoy the rain. Bye, everybody.